Hi everyone, welcome back to this session on project management tools and templates that we're going to use. This one is quality management tools. In fact, there are 7 quality management tools that you absolutely must know from the PMBOK guide. And if you haven't been following along so far, we're doing all of these tools as we go along in an example project called the Pet Buddy project. These are all the people who are working in the Pet Buddy business. Samantha is the business owner. In fact, Samantha's done her business case where she's calling it the Uber for pet stays. So we're going to match up pet sitters with pet owners, and they're going to match up just like the Uber app, but for pet sitters. And here is our project team. So we've got Billy, the project manager. And for quality, what we're looking at is our testing department, because they're going to be doing all of that quality assurance, making sure that all of that scope meets our customer needs. Here are the 7 things that we're going to go through. This is going to be so great. Starting with a very simple test and inspection plan, but very essential. And then getting into check sheets and Pareto charts and the 5 whys and Ishikawa diagrams. If you can already tell me the other name for the Ishikawa diagram, you get bonus points. But let's get straight into this with the test and inspection plan, or test and evaluation documents that we have here. So this is where we're outlining our test approach. We have Macy, our test lead, and Jack, our tester, and we're going to be outlining what we're testing, so the test or acceptance criteria, the deliverable that we're testing, and whether it passes or fails that test or acceptance criteria, usually called ACs or acceptance criteria. Here we've done our acceptance criteria just as a I want so I can. That's a typical user story method. You might use many other methods, just a step-by-step to reproduce any issues, or step-by-step to test the item. Once they've tested these items, they can put all of the outcomes in the test and evaluation documents and some screenshots if things go wrong, and the steps to reproduce any issues that happen. Now, of course, we're going to put the acceptance criteria in our trusty work breakdown structure dictionary as well. Remember that work breakdown structure dictionary, we've come back to it every single time. These are attributes that we're adding from our project into each of the items of our scope. So it goes from all the way to the left to the right, duration, cost, and resources for each particular item of scope, and now the quality needs as well. So we're adding that acceptance criteria and who it's currently assigned to back into our work breakdown structure dictionary as attributes. Now, as we get started with testing these things as they're developed, we can start first of all with a control chart to see if our process or our app or the things that we're measuring are in control. This particular example is the Pet Buddy bookings versus cancellations. And if we've got more bookings, then it's in positive territory. And if we've got more cancellations, then it goes into negative territory. And as you can see, it's just a simple line chart at its most basic. But the real key here is having an average. So this is the average of all of the data. And that ends up being right in the middle. And then we have upper control limits and lower control limits. Now, traditionally on a control chart, that is 3 times the standard deviation of all our data. And you can do that very simply just with a standard deviation formula that you can see here. So we can easily get the standard deviation. And again, traditionally, that is 3 times away from the average. But what I've done here is just made it 1 times away from the average, because what I actually find in the real world is 3 times is too much. So it ends up being way outside, and it's never out of control, basically. So as you can see here, we've got, it starts getting a little bit too much. We might not be able to keep up here. And down here, if we're canceling too many, then we really need to figure out why our process is also out of control. And so we need to look into that. As Macy and Jack go through their testing process, they're also going to find defects. And what they're going to do here is just take a tally sheet or a check sheet of all of the defects that they find. And what that looks like is here we've got some defects like booking failures, display issues, the app might freeze here or there, and they're just going to put these, check them every time it happens. And so as you can see, some of them happen more than others. But what we can do then is start to look at which one is happening the most. It's our check sheet. And now we get a good idea of where we really need to focus our efforts, because as you can see here, sitter availability mismatch is occurring the most, it's probably going to cause the most issues for us. So this is a simple check sheet, a nice way to count defects. Now, a more advanced version of a check sheet is a Pareto chart. And with a Pareto chart, it's the same thing. We're counting those defects down the side here, as you can see. But the real magic here is that we're then sorting them from largest to smallest. So on our Pareto chart with our pet buddy defects, where we've got the highest on the left here, so we know which one that we want to focus on. Over on the right hand side is a cumulative percentage. So all of these are added up as a percentage until it gets to 100% all the way at the end. The key with the Pareto chart is it's based on the Pareto principle, which is that 80% of the outcomes happen from 20% of the inputs. And it happens everywhere throughout life. So 20% of the people own 80% of the wealth. 20% of our workers do 80% of the work. I don't know if you've ever experienced that in a project team. And 20% of our defects cause 80% of the overall issues. And so that's what we're looking at here. We've got our 80% line, and we can see where these two things intersect. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are our top 5 defects. So that's causing 80% of the issues. Now, it doesn't have to be 80%. It's an arbitrary number, but the point is that a small amount of the inputs cause a large amount of the outputs or the issues or the things that we're looking at. So if we were to make that lower and make it down to 60%, then we could focus on the top 3 defects or the top 4 defects. And those would be the ones that we would prioritize and work on first. Now, once we've found those defects, and once Macy and Jack have found those defects and prioritized which ones they want to work on first, then we can do some root cause analysis on those defects to figure out the real cause of those problems. And what we've got here is an Ishikawa diagram, also known as a fishbone diagram or just a root cause analysis chart. But this one is for the root cause analysis of the mismatch in sitter availability. So if a sitter says that they're available, but then they're actually not, and there's a mismatch there, that's our problem or opportunity. And we note that in the head of the fish. So as you can see, this looks a bit like a fish bone. There's another way to look at it. It could be as a diagram, as you've got here. So this one looks more like a fish, so that's a little bit nicer. But that's another way to look at it. This one's nice because it does all of the calculations for us already in the cells of Excel, so that's pretty cool. Now with this, then we come up with reasons why this defect happens, and we do them in the brainstorming buckets of people issues, information issues, process issues, and system issues. And it's just a nice way to group any brainstormed ideas for the root cause of sitter availability mismatch. And then once we've done that, another way to do root cause analysis in our project is the 5 whys, where we have our issue or our defect. In this case, it's glitches in the booking logic that we're looking at. And we simply ask, why is it happening? And we ask why until we get to the real cause of the issue. Now, the reason why we keep asking why is because usually the first answer might be a symptom or one of the reasons, but it's not the final reason that an issue is happening. We're wanting to dig deeper and dig deeper until we really figure out the core reason why this is happening. And this is what it looks like here. So glitches in the booking logic. Why did it happen? Because it allows 2 pet owners to book at the same sitter for overlapping time slots. So that's not very good. But is that the root cause? No. Until we get to the answer of the booking system doesn't implement proper concurrency control, which is something that we actually could implement in this particular mobile app. So if we do that, is that going to solve the real root cause of the problem? And the answer is yes. So once we've figured out the root cause, we can take some actions. And then we know Macy and Jack have done a wonderful job in quality for this mobile app, Pet Buddy.